terminal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight sound SC off. Bring in SC off.
Yikes. You bet.
Okay.
We don't need any more of these.
Way.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NASA Spaceflight. My name is Gavin Cornwell. You may also know me as SpaceX Fleet. We are live at Port Canaveral with views of SpaceX's brand new drone ship, A Shortfall of Gravitas. I'm not here on my own though. I'm also here today with Chris G. Chris Gebhardt, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine. Gavin, how's it going, man?
It is going great. And also working the dials in the background, we've got John Galloway. Das, how you doing?
Hey, it's Das. Going fast.
Awesome stuff. We have got the live views here. If you have any questions, tag us in chat with @NASASpaceflight and we will do our best to answer them. What we've got on view at the moment is SpaceX's completely brand new, completely shiny drone ship. Of course, that's still there, A Shortfall of Gravitas, should I say. It's being towed into Port Canaveral right now with tug Finfalgu. If we zoom in here, we can get a good view. We've been tracking this all morning and it is coming past our fleet cam at Rusty's right now.
Indeed it is, and I know we had earlier too. We'll throw up some of these links in chat as well. But we also had Julia Bergeron, Stephen Marr, and Thomas Berghardt up in a helicopter a bit ago. You may have seen fleeting moments of what looked like a Fleet Cam aerial edition in work a bit earlier. Here. So I know Julia's already got a photo out of that, and we should stand by too for other members of the team to get their photos out of that helicopter ride as we welcome ASOG into Port Canaveral. I know Julia was tweeting, Gavin, that it's been 1,249 days because we like precision here at NSF. Since Elon first announced a third drone ship, and here it comes, and what a beaut it is.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Elon Musk first revealed the name of this new drone ship back in 2018 now. And since then, he's kind of occasionally mentioned it once a year or so. And then sort of at the start of this year, we've been spooling up. We managed to find the location of the new drone ship. It was being built in a port in Louisiana. And here we are, July 2021. And finally, after three and a bit years of waiting, it is finally coming into port right now to begin recovery operations on the east coast of Florida.
Hey, y'all, and I gotta apologize really quickly. I'm weak. We were supposed to be doing a technical check earlier of the NASA Spaceflight Sky Team live from the skies above Port Canaveral. And that was just supposed to be a technical check, but when I could read the name on there, I could not resist piping that into Fleet Cam. So if you're a regular Fleet Cam, you're hanging out here quite often, you never know when some wacky experimental DOS project is going to appear on the screen without warning, and that's what happened earlier today. But that was all on me, and because of that, now, of course, the drone ship is going to go behind the pergola for a little while. So maybe, Gav, that's an opportunity to talk about the old drone ship design, which we can still see on the other side, and the new drone ship design once it becomes visible again. But hashtag blame DOS on that one. I was playing with helicopters, and then I had to scramble to get this other live feed going while also doing the Starbase live thing. So my fault. We can't see it shortly. That's why I jumped in there, Gav, so I could take responsibility. Oh, is that the pergola? That's not the pergola, actually.
We've got another additional vlog today, but it is SpaceX themed. SpaceX's Dragon recovery ship Go Navigator is somewhat going to block our view momentarily. It's recently back after recovering Dragon at the end of the CRS-22 mission, and it is now just about blocking A Shortfall of Gravitas. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them as we fill some content momentarily.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do also see in our back channel that our team has spooled up again, and they are so we might not lose it as much as we thought, but yes, it's always nice when SpaceX deploys the Confused Media ship um, uh, when when these things come in. But it is nice to have a second drone ship back here. The original East Coast one, right, Gavin? Of course, I Still Love You. We sent over to the West Coast so we could get the big shiny new one. And everything. But this is having two of them back at Port Canaveral is really important for some of the cadence that SpaceX is aiming to get back to here when flight operations resume out of Florida here. Right now, maybe with the CRS-23 flight next month, maybe a Starlink before that, but we'll have to see exactly which one ends up going first. But having two of them is really crucial to our East Coast operations here.
That might be a
Yeah,
good time to put in a plug for Rusty's. If you're in Port Canaveral, you
Yes.
can visit Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar and watch events like this in person from the deck you can see below, since we can't see anything else right now. Sorry.
yeah, absolutely. We of course Still Love You used to be based at Port Canaveral in Florida. Middle of June, SpaceX made the move with that drone ship, and it hitched a lift on a heavy lift ship called Mighty 71, and SpaceX moved it all the way over to the port of Long Beach in California. Now we've got fresh new views coming in from a different angle, not blocked by a SpaceX ship or some decking at Rusty's. We've got a view from the ground thanks to Thomas and Julia and Stephen Marr, who are out in the field today. If you take a look, we've got a good view coming in of A Shortfall of Gravitas, and we'll take a good look at the ground support equipment it comes with pre-installed. It is going to sail past, just read the instructions drone ship, where you should be able to make some good comparisons. One key difference, to touch on some questions straight away, one key difference is that Elon announced on Twitter that A Shortfall of Gravitas will be able to run completely autonomously. Now, at the moment, it's not doing that. It is being pushed around and towed by a series of tugs in the port. That is because it may not be fully operational yet. There may be some port restrictions that say you can't run it autonomously inside Port Canaveral. We'll have to wait and see how it fully operates in an autonomous view. But on the left of the camera coming in now, you can see the start of the barge on the bow with the tow chains coming off. And what you might be able to see, if you make it out, is there is like a semicircular lump coming out of the corner of the barge closest to us. That is one of the four thrusters. A Shortfall of Gravitas is equipped with four thrusters, one on each corner, that allow it to both maintain its position during a landing, but also can allow it to move autonomously. Oh, there's even a person for scale. That is fantastic. Just to give you a kind of comparison of what we're looking at here. There are a couple of people walking around. You can just see the size comparison, person to drone ship. Popular question I've seen asked is A Shortfall of Gravitas any bigger or any smaller than Just Read the Instructions and Of Course I Still Love You? And the answer there is it is the same size at its core on the barge that it's built on top of, but it has a slightly different wing design. So it might be marginally smaller or larger than Just Read the Instructions, but essentially it does have a very similar kind of sizing. More fantastic views. We've now dialed back to the fleet cam view on Rusty. You can just see it sailing in now with some tugs helping along on the rear. We'll get some good views of that coming in. If you have questions, absolutely tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight and we will answer them straight away.
Hey, and as usual, y'all, like Gav said, tag us in chat with the at NASA Spaceflight. We'll get some questions out of there. That's why we wanted to spool up a stream like this. A, to send out notifications so you'd know that was happening. Not everybody's always hanging out on a fleet cam. Maybe you saw it on a tweet or something like that. But that's one reason we spooled up this. And then also appreciate the memberships there as well. We got one from James Lucier. Thank you so much for the support. We're able to do this because y'all do things like super chats and memberships and buy merch from the merch store and that sort of thing. I don't want to beat that into the ground too much there, but thank y'all so much for the support. You don't get the NSF Sky team unless the NSF viewership team shows up with the support. So thank y'all so much for everything y'all do so we can keep this going.
Yeah, awesome. Question coming in from Joshua D at NASASpaceflight. Do you all know what kind of range the drone ship have? No chance that they could try and get the first Starship on a drone ship near Hawaii? Now, that's a good two-part question. Essentially, we don't fully understand the range that the drone ships will have. When they're under tug power, it's completely dependent on the range of that tugboat that's taking it. Now, of course, the Loveview is now the only drone ship on the west coast that could essentially reach Hawaii with any ease. But the key thing is that we don't expect SpaceX to want to land a Starship on, of course, Loveview or any of the current SpaceX drone ships. It isn't suited for it. You could probably fit it on there. It might be the only landing that you ever do on that drone ship because you might end up destroying it. The SpaceX drone ships are built for Falcon 9. They are not for Starship operations. That is what the oil rigs, Phobos, and Deimos are for. Thank you for the question. Fantastic views coming in here now. So if I pan the camera to the right here, on the left we have a shortfall of gravitas being handled by the tugs, and on the right hand side we have just read the instructions drone ship, which is undergoing some maintenance. Eventually, what they're going to do is they will berth a shortfall of gravitas right next to read the instructions, and we can do a really good close-up comparison of the two.
You know what's interesting here, Gavin, too, looking at this is it's so odd but nice to finally see cruise ships back in Port Canaveral again. They were gone for the last year and a half, and it's weird to see them back, but it's nice to see them back and see the port getting back to normal like that as well.
Is that an LED light array? What? You'll see that in the middle of the screen?
Oh, I think that is,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very futuristic.
Well, I think that's the entire theme of the new drone ship, to be very futuristic.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Look at those huge thruster wells too. The big circular parts on the four corners. I mean, this one looks like a manufactured product. The other drone ships looked like, let's slap some stuff on a barge and catch a rocket. But this looks like a manufactured product. You know? Whoa. Hope Thomas is okay there. Thomas, Julia, hope y'all are okay. Julia, y'all okay?
Bird
Hey,
attack,
hi.
bird
No,
attack.
Thomas is still here.
Okay. We
he
suddenly
has
went all
not fallen
shaky on
over.
you. Okay. Whew.
No, we're good. Hey, everyone.
Adjusting tripod.
Adjusting tripod. Okay. Julia, how's it going? You're out there at the port with Thomas and Steve, aren't you?
I am. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful, you guys.
What do y'all think of that new drone ship?
It's totally different. I was hearing the comment you were making about it looks like it's manufactured. It looks a lot less like a Lego or a Tinker toy, and it looks more like a purposeful going to tackle the Atlantic sort of vessel.
Like something you could go to the drone ship store and buy professionally. There's like a showroom for this as opposed to like, we tossed this together, welded some things on in the back 40.
Exactly. No, this is totally, I mean, it's very much familiar with the Marmac 302 on the end and the enclosed thrusters, but beyond that, seeing a finished drone ship, 1,200 and how many days, Gavin? 49 since
Yeah.
it was announced.
That's the number you calculated.
That is the number I got. I can say it's well worth the wait, and I really hope that this is the first one to go out for the next launch from Cape, because that would be amazing to see a booster come back on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What I also say is that enjoy, how it looks now. It's all black and freshly painted. Give it a couple of launches and the paintwork they've got will all be ruined and it won't look as nice and clean. So this might be the cleanest and freshest you ever see a shortfall of gravitas. So save at the moment now.
And I hope she gets dirty. I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad that we went up as a team and took some photos so we could document it as a brand new vessel. And down the road, we're gonna see some wear and tear, and that's okay too.
I'm looking for Starlink dishes. Does anybody see any Starlink dishes? Those domes are
No.
navigation dishes, right? But I don't
I
Yeah.
haven't clearly seen a Starlink dish yet either.
Huh.
It certainly had them in the video that Elon Musk tweeted out during the sea trial. They must be there somewhere, unless they've fallen off en route to Florida.
No, I mean, I see you guys could probably see on the stream, there's definitely on the stern, there's like a comms area. But in the
Yeah.
past, the Starlink dishes have been a little more obvious. Interesting.
I see it. If you flick to Fleet Cam.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I see it. It's on one of the rails.
Yeah.
As you're looking at it now, to the left of the black tower, like the middle little stick, shall we call it? Yeah. There is
Yep.
one on one of the rails.
Yes.
It sort of blends into the rails there. That top rail, the left-hand side of the rail, you can see a little slanted part, a little gray slanted part, and that looks like a single Starlink dish right there.
Yeah. Thomas said it's centered on his view now.
Yeah, there we go. It's a little bit, well, it's grayer, I guess, on that camera.
And right now, when we were up, it looked like they actually kind of paused for beauty shots at the end of Jetty, and it looks like they're just kind of enjoying being over here in port right now because they're taking their time with the docking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're maneuvering the tugs around to then get ready to sort of push it back towards the dock where they'll park it momentarily.
And I can tell just from looking at it, it does sit a bit higher right now in the water. I'm imagining they did probably take out some of the ballast for the ride here. Because comparatively, the thruster pods are almost twice as high. As I look at it with the naked eye right now, they're sticking out about twice as much as just read the instructions. So it could be a little bit of a different challenge for the tugs to learn this particular drone ship.
Yeah, exactly. Got a great view there. You can kind of make out on the thruster where the waterline might have been at one point before they might have tweaked the ballast. Don't know if you can quite see that from where you are, Julia.
So have you guys had any questions yet? Because I didn't get to join stream until a few minutes ago. So did you already answer the, well, why didn't they come in autonomously question?
I did touch upon that earlier. If you wanted to expand on it, absolutely go ahead.
Ooh, it's starting to slide in for birthing, y'all.
Oh.
I think that SpaceX has now proven that these drone ships in particular just read the instructions, and A Shortfall of Gravitas can be fully autonomous. The big question remains, how autonomous can they be by maritime regulations, and who controls that? And those are the things we're waiting to learn more on. But as we go forward, as far as coming into and out of Port Canaveral, at least, my gut is telling me that will not be an autonomous operation ever. And that is just to protect the safety of the people and the operations that are occurring in port on a daily basis. Should something happen, this is a lot smaller space than the wide open, vast expanse of the ocean. So we're going to have to wait and see what SpaceX does offshore. But Gavin, I have a feeling the last set of testing we saw just read the instructions do, I have a feeling they were playing out to the north, and they were probably testing some of what they implemented on A Shortfall of Gravitas. So it's kind of exciting that this drone ship is also helping the older bits of the fleet evolve.
Yeah, that is a great thought. So just read the instructions. Yeah, it used to be based out on the west coast, where of course I Love You now is. 2019, SpaceX moved the drone ship from California over to Florida, and then start of early 2020, they spent good first half of the year, completely modernizing and revamping Just Read the Instructions drone ship. And since then, they've not ever really stopped tinkering with it, have they? I mean, when A Shortfall of Gravitas gets up close, we'll see that they're tinkering with Just Read the Instructions right now, making all sorts of unknown upgrades. So it's really interesting to think that they might be taking the lessons from Just Read the Instructions and applying that technology to A Shortfall of Gravitas and its design.
I think that's what we're working toward. And I think that, of course, I Still Love You is going to do spectacularly well out in the Pacific where it's a little gentler. So the old gal gets to enjoy things and not get beat up as often. And then we're going to leave, the newer ship to take the brunt of that harsh weather, because with the Atlantic, if it's not hurricane season, then it's nor'easter season. And there's very few days in between that are really nice at sea, calm weather for landing days.
Absolutely.
I'm enjoying Braveheart, the little tug that could.
A tiny little blue and white ship just completely being dropped. It's literally smaller than the height of the thruster on A Shortfall of Gravitas. But it's living its best life.
It is, just like the big boys. Chris
It's
Chris
hilarious.
Gebhardt, I heard you talking about, holy cow, there's cruise ships in port. I know, right?
I know, it's so weird to see after a year and a half, isn't it?
That is, which leads me to, why in the world do we have such a tiny little tugboat here, right? Well, when the cruise ship business couldn't operate out of Port Canaveral because of COVID, some of the other tugs went back to their home ports to get maintenance or find other work because there wasn't work to be had here with the regular tender services that would happen. Even the cargo ships, there was a decrease in traffic for the longest time. So right now we have very limited crew, like the tug ports that are available. And that's why appointments are so scarce if you're planning to come in or out of Port Canaveral with a larger load. And that is why we have that little Braveheart here, because why not make some extra money? If the big boys are going to go out of town, then, the little ones get to earn their keep too.
And Julia, I do have a follow-up question for you on that with the return of the cruise ships and the start of cruising again out of Port Canaveral. But before we do that, I just wanted to say major thank you to Jerwa for the $50 super chat. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much. I recognize the name. You're a regular on our stream. Thank you so much for that support. Really, really means a lot to us.
Thank you, everybody, because doing something like going up in a helicopter isn't possible without your support. And I really appreciate your support, y'all.
Going up in a helicopter. Wait, somebody was in a helicopter earlier?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but it was pretty amazing. I even sent a special picture to Gavin so Gavin can have some fun and share that with everybody who follows NSF.
Did you? Oh, I'll have to go look.
Well done.
Oh, yeah. If we want to learn more about A Shortfall of Gravitas and what's different, having an infographic might be helpful.
Yeah, we'll have to label that one and put it on Twitter later on with all the bits and pieces. That is a fantastic aerial shot. Stay tuned for that on Twitter later on today.
I hope it's everything you imagined, Gavin.
I need to break it down and analyze what is there, because everything's so clean and boxed in. With sort of Just Read the Instructions and of course To Still Love You, everything's sort of split up to like a mishmash of like containers and boxes. It's kind of obvious to see what you're looking at, but it's going to take a while to figure out what we're looking at on ASOG because everything's just boxed in and is black. So it's going to take quite a while. But that does dial into a question that came in from Tony Parkinson. He says, at NASASpaceflight, it looks like each thruster pod has its own generator in those 4 black units on the rear. That is an excellent spot. If we zoom in, what we can see on the stern of the drone ship, in the center, if you've seen some of the aerial views on Twitter, there is a big black chunk, but there are 5 or 6 exhaust pipes coming out of the black squares. So it looks like those are generator units. They might have, exactly as you've said there, one generator per thruster with 1 or 2 extra units for redundancy, maybe to power other systems on the drone ship. So that is an excellent observation. It kind of gives you a hint about how we're powering the drone ship. It will be using diesel generators that will then drive electrical thrusters. And Julia, I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but are you seeing Tug Finfalgu sailing in front of the view now, trying to get its 5 minutes of fame? May have lost Julia. That is all right. I'll continue to talk. So sailing in on the left of the screen is Tug Finfalgu, which clearly wanted a moment in the sun coming to show off. This dark brownie Tug has been doing SpaceX operational work since April 2020, I want to say. SpaceX is having a bit of a quieter period at the moment. They're not launching at the moment from the East Coast. So SpaceX sent this tug off to Louisiana to fetch a shortfall of gravitas and bring it into Port Canaveral. And it is currently blocking our view, but that is all right. Let's see if there are any other questions in chat. Yeah, also one here from Tin Man. He says, at NASA Spaceflight, will future drone ships look like this one? Christy, what do you think?
No, at least not for not for SpaceX's next big program. Not for Starship. They are definitely looking at then converting the 2 former oil rig platforms, now named Phobos and Deimos, to be the sort of launch and landing structures for Starship operations early on. Starship is also a much bigger system, so these sort of smaller drone ships like A Shortfall of Gravitas and Just Read the Instructions, and of course I Still Love You, don't really work for the size of Starship system for the Starship system, and crucially as well, the Starship system is kind of going away from landing legs, at least on the booster side of things right now, as SpaceX is still saying they're moving toward the desire to catch the boosters with the sort of arms that will be attached to the side of the umbilical tower, or the launch support towers near their eventual liftoff site. So no, not expecting future drone ships to look like this for SpaceX's next vehicles. And I'm not sure I have heard any plans, and I'm not sure if it would be really economically viable to look at replacing, of course, I Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions right now, especially since plans for the company still call for like a lot of the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy traffic to eventually transfer over to Starship. So really cool design. I'd say right now, be grateful we have one of them. How about you, Gavin?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
It was Spain
Oh,
again.
he
Jeez,
keeps trying to dodge his way through all of our camera angles, just try and get
fine.
their full view.
We have multiple cameras for a reason, so
Awesome
good
stuff.
grief.
If you're just joining us, we are looking at a shortfall of gravitas. There are 2 large cranes in the background. They are way off on the other side of the port. They are not involved with the SpaceX operation. It's doing something for the Navy. In case you're wondering what those 2 cranes in the background are doing, nothing to do with SpaceX. Another excellent question from Space Guide 48 in chat. At NASA Spaceflight, when Starship launches and attempts to land on a barge or something, would they keep the current barges or would they scrap the current drone ships? Chris G.
or would they scrap when Starship launches into its own? Yeah, I don't think so. Kind of for the reason we were just talking about. The mass of a vehicle in order to withstand a fully fueled Starship, launching from it, and all of the necessary support equipment and structures that come with them. These drone ships are not big enough for those types of operations, which is why we've seen them go toward the oil rig platforms, former oil rig platforms in Phobos and Deimos.
Yeah.
Which makes
Awesome.
a lot of sense because one thing sorry, Gavin, was one thing to keep in mind with Starship launch operations is all of the methane and oxygen, all of the pressurization elements, like everything has to be there at the barge. So it's basically constructing a floating orbital launch platform like we have seen them do at, or where we are continuing to see them do at Boca Chica. So in that regard, these are not big enough when you think about the size of all those propellant tanks and what you have to have in order to support a liftoff of a Starship system.
Yeah, exactly. Good deal. All right. It looks as if A Shortfall of Gravitas is nearly fully berthed. Tiny ship Braveheart is really going to town there, trying to do her best. Absolutely, there's some coal rolling going on there.
It's like,
I'm
I
sure
can
that's
do
fine.
it, Dad. I can do it. Come on.
Yeah. Cap, one of the free cam regulars, Cap said it's like a 4-year-old trying to help carry a couch when you're moving.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm helping.
What I love is you can see like the exhaust coming out the back, like not the water being displaced, but the exhaust up above it
Yeah.
too.
The whole thing is like, I'm pushing really hard right now, Dad.
No, I've got a question here from some aviation dude. We think we just touched on this, but at NASASpaceflight, how many tugs do they have out there today for A Shortfall of Gravitas? So if we zoom out, we had tug Finfalgu, which was that brown tug that kept trying to block our view. That was the main tug that brought it all the way from Louisiana. And then we've also got 3 assist tugs today helping out. So on the left, that is Elizabeth S. Coal rolling and trying her very best. In the middle is that tiny ship in blue called Braveheart. And on the right is the red and yellow tug Christine S. And Johnny McWilliams in chat says, "See, size is fantastic." Awesome. If I zoom out now, we can get a good sort of side-by-side shot of A Shortfall of Gravitas next to just read the instructions for the very
Ooh,
first
very nice.
time. Yeah, look at that. Let me tweak the camera here.
This would be an unfair game of spot the differences, right?
The differences are plentiful.
Right.
So, Shortfall of Gravitas on the left and just the instructions on the right. And straight away, if you were watching a short while ago when Julia was chatting, she mentioned the thruster wells appear to be riding a lot higher on a Shortfall of Gravitas, and that might be because ASOC hasn't had its ballast put in yet. But if you kind of see, you've got these thruster wells, 4 on each corner. So you can see 2 and 2 at the moment on both sides of the drone ship.
Mhm.
If I sort of zoom in a little bit, you can see one and then the other. There is quite a significant height difference. The thruster wells for A Shortfall of Gravitas are riding a lot higher in the water. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens with that. That might be the new design for this drone ship. They might just not be fully ballasted down yet. It will
So
be
I
something to watch out for.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Gavin. So it's here. It doesn't need to have it like the last time Just Read the Instructions arrived, or and like with oh, I'm totally blanking on the name all of a sudden. Of course, I Still Love You. Odd name to forget. But they had to have their wings, their sides taken off to go through the Panama Canal, and then they had to be put back together once they got transferred to their different coasts. But we don't have that with ASOG. So you were mentioning like some things are still left for outfitting, but about how much work are we thinking before it can support its first flight?
Well, it looks pretty ready to go from a construction standpoint, although we don't exactly know what's going on inside all of the black buildings they've got open there. What I'd probably expect to see, they've only done a single day sea trial, which is where that footage that Elon Musk tweeted out came from. They've only done a single day. I imagine they might want to do a full kind of like simulation of like a day's run. to
Mm.
make sure all the systems work. I mean, you want to make sure your drone ship is fully ready and up to task before you send out and start scheduling a rocket launch and fuel rockets. So I imagine we'll see at least one or maybe two more sea trials offshore Port Canaveral in maybe the coming days or weeks before the next launch. But from a
Mm.
construction standpoint, it looks pretty much ready to go. I mean, they've certainly applied all the paint. It looks amazing. Question in chat here from Bastek at NASA Spaceflight. Did you see the Octograbber garage? I did. We can't see at the moment because the way they've parked the drone ship, it's the wrong way around. So the Octograbber garage is kind of blocked in by all of the ground support equipment. But yes, it does have an Octograbber garage. It is very much built in and surrounded by all of the equipment on the stern of the drone ship. But there is a door there that will open. There is no Octograbber on board at the moment. It is at Port Canaveral. It is in a tent, but it's currently being blocked. We can't see it. But in the
Small boo.
coming days or weeks, we should see them load up, and hopefully, if you stay tuned to Fleet Cam, you might get to see them load and lift an Octograbber robot onto a shortfall of gravitas.
And hey, Gav, Thomas out there running the other camera, they're probably going to be out there for another 15 minutes or so. So if there's anything specifically you want Thomas to zoom in on, just sing out, and we can use that other camera to get some close-in views of other things. But he's probably out there for another 10, 15 minutes. Just wanted to let you know.
All right, copy that. Super chat coming from Anne Kalimon. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong. Thank you for the £6.66. Hello, friends. Packing for a move today while following us in the background. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping us fund Fleet Cam, all of our operations. That is awesome. Thank you very much. Looking for more questions in chat. If you have any, tag at NASA Spaceflight. Dominic asks at NASASpaceflight, what's the name of the small blue tug? I think we touched on that earlier. That is a little ship called Braveheart, which has been trying its real best today. It's been quite a bit of comedy. Thank you for the question. Another good question here from Ashley Rigo at NASASpaceflight. Why is the shape of a shortfall of gravitas slightly different? Yeah, that is a great question. It's built on the same size barge as Just Read the Instructions and, of course, Still Love You, but it looks different because, first of all, the wing design is sort of a circular design. The corners of the wings are more tapered off, whereas on, of course, Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions, they're more squared off. So it gives a more circular design to the landing pad, and also crucially, the way the ground support equipment is laid out, it's all on the stern of a shortfall of gravitas. It does make it look completely different and a bit bigger, but they are broadly the same size, but it just looks more circular because of how it's designed. Thank you for the question. Super chat coming from Darium Hernandez for $99. Thank you very much. At NASA Spaceflight, is the drone ship fully operational? Do you think SpaceX will use it for the next launch? Yeah, we've touched on that. Oh wow, the tug is just completely gone. It looks operational. There's our first
Oh, wow.
completely
Oh.
yeah, there's our first completely clear view. I looked over a second, they've just all gone. It looked completely operational. I mean, it's freshly painted if you look at it there and now,
Yeah.
but we imagine some sea trials will occur before they send out on its first mission. But hopefully, the very next SpaceX launch from the East Coast, they might end up using a shortfall of gravitas. So we'll have to stand by and take a look. Awesome. Wow, if we zoom in, we can get our first hit properly clear. Look at that. It is completely black and clean. It looks amazing. Tim Bowen asks, NASASpaceflight,
Yeah.
there are 3 of those LED panels. Can we zoom in? Yeah, we zoomed on them earlier. We've noticed on the bow there are 3 LED panels, which presumably is what they'll use as floodlights to completely illuminate the Droneship at night when there's a Falcon 9 landing. There's a clear shot of them, and there's a person for scale again. Those LED lights must be enormous as he walks past. Everything's enormous about this drone
Right,
ship.
look at that.
Crazy.
Yeah, what do you think the stick on the front is for, that mast? Why would you have a mast there? Like a camera or?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you what. If we're on the topic of mysterious sticks, if I
Okay.
zoom out and I just read the instructions, something I've noticed is that if I pan all the way to the right, just read the instructions has also recently gained a stick on the right as well. So I don't know what
Oh
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Huh.
know what these are. I can't see anything on it at the moment. There's like maybe something at the very top, but I don't know if there's something to be mounted there. But yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? While we're over here, we can get a
Hmm.
comparison. If you look at the back of just read the instructions, like a mess of pipes and different things and rust and stuff. Look how messy that is. And then if you just remember A Shortfall of Gravitas, just how clean it looks. There's like that's the ultimate comparison there, really, of just the complete difference between one and the other. So A Shortfall of Gravitas really is the next sort of evolution design.
Wow.
Yeah. Bob David asks, is A Shortfall of Gravitas Marmac 302 or Marmac 307? Can't quite tell. It is Marmac 302. So SpaceX is using 3 Marmac barges. So Marmac 303 is just read the instructions, and Marmac 304 is Of Course I Still Love You, and they've now brought in Marmac 302. They're all the same size. They've just been outfitted as SpaceX Droneship slightly differently. Thank you for the question.
Indeed. And here with a super chat, Aaron with $10. Thank you so much for the support. Really really appreciate that. Definitely. And here's one, Gavin. I know it's still in our question queue and everything. About how far apart will the two drone ships be during the Falcon Heavy double drone ship landing recovery? Here coming up, I think we kind of have some idea about like how close they're at least comfortable leaving the drone ships, right? Because there were 2 Starlink flights that sort of were going to go hours apart from one another, and they had the 2 drone ships stationed very close to one another. In fact, like you could see one drone ship from the cameras on the other. But I think they definitely. I don't know if they'd go for the optics of having them so close together that they perform those nice synchronized landings like they do at LZ 1 and 2, or if at sea they'd be wanting them a bit further apart just because there's no real need to have them that close together. But I don't think we've heard exactly, have we?
Yeah, no, I don't think we have her exactly. It's one of the things we're going to have to sort of wait and see. But I imagine there'll be some further separation than the 2 landing sites, LZ1 and 2. I imagine there will be some separation there, exactly like you've said.
Say what? That was roughly 3 nautical miles, maybe. in between the two.
Yeah, I mean, you could literally see. I remember SpaceX showed a view of one of the drone ships sailing around while the other one had a Falcon 9 on board. They were really close.
Yeah, that was crazy.
The whole time when that was sort of setting up as a possibility, I was like, oh, aim the camera at one drone ship at the other for the landing, please, 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 please. You know?
It's like that dream shot we've never seen before, please. Just like we've always been waiting, you know. It's been an event just to have 2 boosters vertical in port at the same time, and that's happened fairly recently, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that was some
look-
news.
Look how many years it took for that to happen.
Right?
Julia, if you still have views, what is that white and black ship sailing in between the 2 drone ships?
Is that white and black ship? Gavin, are you seriously asking me that?
You'll have to tell me.
Is that Go Navigator, the star of the CRS-22 cargo return?
Yeah, spot on. One of SpaceX's Dragon recovery ships there, just sort of nestling itself in between the 2 drone ships. That comparison there, just left to right, I still can't get over that. Just on the left, A Shortfall of Gravitas, you know, it's clean, black, all boxed in. And then I don't want to say just read the instructions looks terrible, but
No, really,
it's an unfair
seriously,
comparison.
Gavin, when you're here, you're going to realize that it really does look like something out of Star Wars that was built, you know, out of a junkyard. I'm not going to lie. Even before we had something pretty to compare it to, it was kind of a hot mess. But it worked, so who cares, right?
Fantastic. So we've
And
had...
we... Oh, go ahead, Gavin. I was just going to say that I think we have an answer to the question about what we're talking about in terms of the sticks or the masts that have appeared on them. Jack Carpenter is saying in our chat and with a $5 super chat as well. Thank you very much for that, Jack. That the stick is a mast used for navigation lights and displaying what are called day shapes. These are used to inform other ships of your status.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know what? That could be helpful if you're more autonomous and your tug is not necessarily with you.
Yeah,
right.
But who's going to deploy the shapes? A robot?
Right.
Well, okay, good point. And I'm looking. I kind of stopped at the car to cool off. I'm not going to lie, but I have a clearer view of just read the instructions, and I think there is something similar to that on there as well. And I just never really noticed it. Or I assumed it was like a Ben Cooper photo mount sort of thing.
I wonder if those things too are things that could be automated too and controlled from the other ships that are nearby. Like, you know, like lights that you have to put on if you're in fog and things like that, and you know, blah 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 blah, all the maritime safety stuff. I wonder if that's stuff that can also be controlled from those ships around it. Because we do have a question here from chat saying, when rockets are landing on ASOG, will they still have a crew nearby in case something breaks, or is it 100% on its own out there? What are its autonomous capabilities? So yeah, Julia and Gavin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what we mean by this one being more autonomous is that it doesn't need the tugs. It can travel under its own power. It still needs tugs when it comes into channels and comes into port for those types of control capabilities that the tugs have, but that's more what we mean by more autonomous than the rest. But there are still tenders that go out with it. There are still crews that go out with it because the crews, the humans are the ones who have to go make sure the booster is secured and be with it in case there are things that need to be done if like if an octograbber breaks, right? There are contingency backups for how to manually weld the vehicle down to the deck or weigh it down to the deck.
Yeah.
And as we've seen on some landings, even when Octograbber grabs it, if the seas are really, really, really rough, like we've seen them come back where they've obviously sent people out there to chain it down even more with Octograbber. So yeah, the people support is not going away. It's just it doesn't need a tug to pull it all the way out to its location anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Do I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah, because and then you got to think about all of the things that are on the deck of Go Quest as well. That's also communications and relay to support the drone ship. And I can't say there has been a mission at all where GoQuest hasn't been nearby, just I think not just because of the crew, but because of what they carry on deck.
Yeah.
And before flight, you also want to make sure that that deck is clear of any debris before they come in for a landing. And if there is debris, chances are you need a human to remove it. So
Yeah, Julia, sorry if you said it, but for people that don't know that are watching, what is GoQuest?
what is GoQuest? GoQuest is an offshore supply vessel that was converted by SpaceX, and they are under contract. And they carry literally the crew, and well, they're kind of the heart of the fleet. They go out on every mission. So even if there's 2 missions back to back, they will dock somewhere like North Carolina and go out and meet the other drone ship. Yeah, they're kind of the heart, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to show views of GoQuest, but they're not actually in Port Canaveral right now. They are using the downtime from SpaceX launches to undergo some maintenance north of here in Jacksonville. They're not currently here. But if you've ever been in port, it's a big green ship. It's the only green ship that SpaceX has anymore. They used to have quite a few green ships. But that is GoQuest. Thank you for the awesome question.
So Gavin, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
As we have our new Phobos and Deimos, do you think maybe we'll see some of the offshore supply vessels that we've seen in the past maybe run supply to them once they are stationed offshore?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fantastic integration. So you might have heard the names Go Searcher, Go Navigator, and just mentioned Go Quest. The Go stands for Geis Offshore, which is a vessel service company. Their bread and butter kind of core trade is servicing oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. But obviously they've been branching out and they do a lot of SpaceX operational work. So what we might find potentially in the next couple of years, as SpaceX's 2 rigs come online, we may end up seeing some Go ships actually, servicing, resupplying, and taking crew and cargo to and from the rigs offshore, depending on where SpaceX chooses to operate them from. So that'll be something really exciting to see. Fantastic question in chat from Ashley Rago. At NASASpaceflight, does ASOG have any solutions for seagulls?
For what? Oh, for
Seagulls.
seagulls? Yeah.
There is that one launch where SpaceX didn't quite make the Falcon 9 landing, and there were some seagulls on deck that got saved. Seagulls a bit of a cursed item, so hopefully it has some anti-seagull protections built in.
You know, my absolute favorite part of that was when the drone ship made it back to port. There were still 3 seagulls on it, and I just loved the like thought that it was the same 3. I obviously it wasn't, but I just loved the fact that they were just like, let's take a cruise.
Enjoy the rocket landing. Oh wait. Ponson with the question in chat, is it possible SpaceX will purpose unneeded drone ships to transport things to and from Starship spaceports? The answer there is technically yes. The real answer is no. SpaceX needs all 3 of their drone ships constantly for Falcon 9 launches. They do not have the spare time to start transporting Starship cargo around. They are needed for Falcon 9 landing operations all the time. Yeah, I've got a question here for Chris G. This might be up your alley from Ashley again. Why a long
Yeah.
downtime for Falcon 9 launches?
Well, from the understanding of it, we had the first half of the year that heavily focused on launching the initial round of Starlink satellites to get the full coverage. I think it's like 1,584, and they threw up a few more than they needed to. But getting the total number of over 1,500 Starlink satellites up for the initial deployment of the constellation was a pretty hefty goal, and when they were knocking off about a flight every 9 days with that. And then they wrapped that up in May and got the first orbital shell completely launched. Now, it's still going to be a few weeks or months before they're all where they need to be for full, quote unquote, start of global coverage. But that's really what they focused on in the first half of the year. And then we had June, which sort of transitioned into the month of the paying customer for them, where you had CRS cargo flights and a GPS launch, and you had an SXM internet satellite radio launch, and you had Transporter 2 all go within that 4-week period. So basically now it's waiting on the next round of Starlings for the new orbital shells that they're going to start launching here to be ready, and then we expect them to start hitting that cadence again. If you were with us a little earlier, you probably heard me say that the next flight out of here on a Falcon 9, and out of here I mean Cape Canaveral, is likely either going to be a Starlink or the CRS-23 mission in late August. But prior to that, we have Starliner's OFT, Orbital Flight Test 2, the uncrewed flight test of the Starliner vehicle up to the International Space Station, which is currently tracking to a liftoff on the 30th of July. I have 1456 EDT, 1856 UTC is the launch time for that one. But yeah, it just seems like we ended up in a lull here in July where there weren't paying customers that were needing to go, and they're not yet quite ready to start launching the second of the 5 rounds of Starlink satellites that they're looking at for the various orbital shells that they have planned.
You know what, Chris? I'm not going to lie. It's been kind of nice to have just a little bit of a break.
I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean.
I'm actually almost caught up on like journaling and all those other things that just get set aside. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Gavin, there's a water salute of sorts going on in port, but it's from a cargo ship.
Ah. Let's see here. Let's see what else we've got. Scrolling through some questions. Sorry, just scrolling through chat here, looking for questions, primarily related to the drone ship here.
I found one for you. I found
Yeah.
one, Chris. From Max says, should the thrusters not be horizontal? These look vertical. Do they rotate when they are in use? That is an excellent question. So SpaceX drone ships have kind of like 2 different designs for their thrusters. Of course, I Still Love You has thrusters that do exactly what Max says, where they rotate in and out of the water when they're not in use. They've got those blue ones, 4 in each corner, that rotate into the water. The new modern design that A Shortfall of Gravitas and Just Read the Instructions are using, they have these 4 thruster wells, which are those sort of circular protrusions on the corners of the shot you can see at the moment. There's thrusters inside those wells, but they're permanently submerged underwater, so they don't rotate out of the water or up and down. They're permanently underwater. But that makes sense for this design, where A Shortfall of Gravitas is going to be running autonomously. Those thrusters will always need to be in the water because it's going to be propelling itself. They'll always be in use. Now, it's interesting that Just Read the Instructions has that same design. So potentially, could they look at making just read the instructions autonomous as well, with those thrusters that are always underwater as well. So that could be something that SpaceX is looking to do or is already in the process of doing. I don't think there's an easy way for us to visually tell if they're making a drone ship autonomous or not.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, unless we literally see them start taking the thrusters off of uh off of it, I don't know what we would look for. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
You know, it might also come. I mean, it is interesting because too, it might come down to a cost benefit analysis, right? Like when they were sort of designing a shortfall of gravitas from scratch, having learned lessons from, of course, I Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions. You know, it might be something where it was just easier and cheaper in the long run to build it like that from the get-go. Whereas I don't know what a retrofit now of Just Read the Instructions or Of Course I Still Love You. I don't know what that would cost them in terms of what's your operating cost that you have to assume anyway with the tugs, you know, and how, you know, I don't know. It's all an interesting benefit analysis for SpaceX if they would do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Question here from Zachary. So where did A Shortfall of Gravitas come from? I saw a barge pass through the Panama Canal a couple of days ago. Was it this one? So no, it's been a really busy time for SpaceX drone ships in the last month or so. So the drone ship that you saw go through the Panama Canal, that was, of course, I Still Love You, which used to be based here at Port Canaveral, where we're seeing live views of at the moment. SpaceX chose to move, of course, Still Love You to California because they're going to restart launches from Vandenberg. So you saw, of course, Love You sail through a couple of weeks ago now on top of a heavy lift ship.
Hmm.
That then left SpaceX with only one operational drone ship on the East Coast in Florida. But the launch rate is such that SpaceX really needs two drone ships over here. So we've got this brand new third drone ship of Shortfall of Gravitas that has just arrived today from its construction shipyard in Louisiana to fill in for its place.
I'm seeing a lot of questions in chat too, in regard to what we might be able to expect from camera coverage and everything on for landings of Falcon 9s and Falcon Heavy sidecores on A Shortfall of Gravitas. Um, the ability for those feeds to be maintained both from the booster and from the drone ship are dependent on a couple of different things. One, for the systems that are actually on the drone ship and the communication systems and the transmission systems linking out through Starlink and everything, if the signal can hold is kind of highly dependent on the interference that the engines and everything are causing as the booster is descending down toward the ship, right? There's a lot of interference that the rockets can create with the signals in that moment and the intensity as they are landing and everything is still firing. And it's a lot of the reasons why when you see video from the drone ships, a lot of times it does hiccup or it gets really, really pixelated and you can kind of make something out there. But on the flip side of that, the transmissions from the boosters and all of their onboard cameras and systems going upward toward the systems, and the communication platforms and everything, we've seen much more stable views from the booster side. A Shortfall of Gravitas, you know, is going to be, I would say, very, very similar to what we've seen with, of course, I Still Love You and Just Read the Instructions recently, where it's going to depend on day of conditions. It's going to depend on the line of sight to the communication services as to whether or not the live transmission broadcasts from the drone ship itself can stay stable during the landings. But I would expect the landings themselves and the onboard footage from the boosters to be very, very similar, as we've seen them getting really, really, really good and solid with that in recent months. And I mean, Gavin, I don't know about you, but I mean, some of those onboard camera views that they keep with the boosters, and it lights its engine to do the landing burn, and then all of a sudden you're like, there it is, there's the drone ship, and you can see how the booster is altering its trajectory now that the engine has successfully lit to get itself over the drone ship for landing. They're really, really impressive videos.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like recently SpaceX kind of changed the way they're broadcasting the landings. Maybe that is through Starlink technology or something similar. Sort of in the past, it was sort of they'd have a camera on the drone ship and it would just sort of see the view of the landing, but it would often like lose connection or become more blurry. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. We've been seeing some views lately from Falcon 9 itself as it comes into land, and it is just absolutely staggering to see, and it's often clean all the way down. So fingers crossed that level of technology translates across to A Shortfall of Gravitas, and we continue to see those stunning views.
Yes. Another question.
John, we've had a super chat come in from
Yes.
Surfs Up Robotics. What does A Shortfall of Gravitas mean? So, SpaceX has a drone ship naming scheme based upon the Culture series by Ian Banks. I believe it's Elon Musk's naming choices. So they're all kind of names from the series. A Shortfall of Gravitas is shorter for experiencing a significant gravitas shortfall, which I think is a running gag. I haven't personally read the books, but it is a shortened reference from the Culture series of experiencing a significant gravitas shortfall. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you everyone for joining. I personally have a commitment that I need to get to, and I know how we are about chatting and driving, so I'm going to need to sign off, but I just wanted to thank everyone for joining, y'all, and the NSF team, and thank you so much for your support and your super chats.
Yeah, absolutely. Good deal. We'll take some more questions. We'll probably start to wrap things up. So any more questions, chuck them in chat and we will take a look at them. Right. We'll take one final question and we'll wrap up the stream. Question from MAV Mav. Oh, I've just lost it from my panel. Let's give it a go. There it is. Final question, not really on topic, but here we go. What about a new fairing recovery ship? Yeah, that is a great question, obviously. So we lost Miss Tree and Miss Chief March, April time this year. SpaceX scrapped the idea of catching fairings. Since then, we've had different ships come in to kind of temporarily fill the role. There was a big pink and blue ship called Sheila Bordelon. We've had an even larger black and red ship called Hosper. Those both had large cranes. They had varying successes. And we even had the Dragon recovery ships sort of fill in the role and also do fair recovery. We're still waiting to see what SpaceX's finalized new plans are for fair and recovery. They certainly won't be giving up on fair and recovery. They will continue forward, but we need to wait and see what their permanent solution is going to look like, because they won't be able to keep using the Dragon recovery ships as they have other duties to recover Dragon and have to be available for training and operational missions. and it's unlikely to be cost effective to keep chartering random ships to fill role on a temporary basis. So we'll have to wait and see, but fingers crossed, we won't have to wait too long and we will see what SpaceX is planning soon enough. Thank you for the question. Dust, are you there?
I am here.
Are we about ready to wrap up this stream?
Hey, it's your rodeo, Gav. I'm just here in the background clicking on stuff. So if you are,
Yeah, I think we're getting close now. I think we've had most of the questions. We'll continue the feed running. If you go watch the live NASA Spaceflight Fleet Cam feed, this live video feed will continue, and you can watch A Shortfall of Gravitas and just read the instructions, be tinkered with, and prepare for the next operational missions. But I imagine that will about do it for today.
yeah,
Yeah, I was joined here a short while ago by Chris Gephardt, Assistant Managing Editor at NASA Spaceflight. Previously on comms, you also had Julia Bergeron, Fleet Extraordinaire and photographer, and occasionally in the background, mastering our second camera feed, we had Thomas Burkhart, writer and editor for NASA Spaceflight. But I think that will about do it for today.
yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Like Gav said, folks, you don't have to stop watching. This is a commentary stream, and like we said, anytime there's a big event happening, we're going to spool up a separate commentary stream. That means that notifications go out. We'll tweet about it, all these sorts of things, so you don't miss a big thing. And ASOG, Shortfall of Gravitas, coming into Port Canaveral for the first time was definitely a big enough event that we thought we should send out some notifications and spend some time here doing some commentary. But Fleet Cam's not going to turn off. The other Fleet Cam stream is going to stay live, so if we could get the mods to put a link to that Fleet Cam stream into chat, then y'all can continue watching what's going on over here at the port. Probably going to be a calm day now that they've got everything berthed and everything there. And then also, not to cross-pollinate too much, Gav. Look at this. Gav's got the Fleet Cam look. We also have the live 24/7 Starbase live stream going as well now. So I have been running 3 streams this entire time. That's why I haven't been talking as much as I usually do. But that is also going on, a curated stream over from Starbase with a minimum of advertisements, so you can watch what's happening with the Starship development program as well over at Boca Chica. But Gav, thank you so much for hopping in and doing the Q&A there. I know it's been a while since we had a big Fleet Cam thing, and I'm glad we got another one going today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a bit of a quiet time at the moment, but space launches will return and from Florida, and we will get more fleet activity very soon.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, y'all. So also the flickering on the camera every now and then, that's the ISP. I'm working with the ISP to resolve that. It's a little ridiculous that I can put a robot in the middle of nowhere at the beach in Boca Chica and get better service than this ISP has given us. But we love you, ISP, who shall we be named, unnamed, renamed. Probably be named somebody different if they don't get this fixed. Anyways, y'all, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Watch over on Fleet Camera on Starbase Live, and we will see you nerds later.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Body mounts IFC off. Bring in SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.